and welcome everybody to Vibe Fridays. And we're coming home. Interesting, we're coming live. I'm actually on an island right now, Mario. I don't know if you know that or not. I'm in a little island called Madeira off the coast of Morocco. It is a Portuguese peninsula. It is like one of my favorite places on the world. With my new Airbnb that hopefully we'll be able to rent soon. And we're hanging out here and getting final preps going in here. And Mario, you're coming in from not only a brand new place, but a brand new studio that you've been spurging on a little bit. Is that correct?
Yeah, man, that is absolutely correct. I just got my new studio set up, so pretty excited.
Awesome, man. Well, today a lot of people have been asking for this. We're kind of taking a little step back. So a lot of people in the community right now, both in the N8N community and in Highlevel, are having some major challenges connecting the tool. So I know we covered this in some previous videos, and we did it in two different ways. We did it through the marketplace application, and we also did it through the private integration. And again, through a lot of feedback in the community, a lot of people have said, hey, we don't have agency accounts. Can you please just make it so you guys can go incredibly slow? This has been literally the request, and show us how to connect through a private integration like that. Anybody that doesn't have like an agency account can do this in a normal account and not really be bothered. Then the second request we got was, can you show us how to do the webhook again, where I can webhook into an automation inside of Highlevel, and I can also webhook out to an N8N automation from Highlevel. So hopefully we'll have time to do it. And as always, everybody, I have the master of N8N here, our very own Mario. And as always, we're always part of the HL Pro Tools team on top of representing ourselves. And just in case anybody does want to show up or has some N8N masterpiece that they want to create, I popped up Mario's QR code here, that for anybody that's ever interested in Mario's service, because not only can he create a self-hosted service for you, he's also a wizard with creating some crazy complex automations for N8N, which again, anybody that's interested in those services, that's his link. So you guys can take advantage of that. Now there is a waiting list, and Mario is going to raise his prices. So if you're not doing it now, make sure that you are jumping on that waiting list to get it in there.
I just launched a private coaching program actually, so
that's awesome.
Pretty excited about that. Just got that live, and finally signed up for Stripe because people were like, "I want to pay by credit card," and I'm like, "All right, fine." So I signed up for Stripe, and yeah, man, that is officially live. But I appreciate it, Nuno. And let's go ahead and get started, brother.
Yeah, so let's share our screen. And again, so here's what we're going to cover again today. I'm just going to repeat it. How to connect N8N to Highlevel through a private integration like that. Anybody with or without an agency account can do it. The second thing that we're going to do, if we have time, is also connect how to do a webhook out of N8N into Highlevel, and then how to also do from Highlevel to N8N for anybody that's creating these complex automations that you guys want to go through. So we're going to get started with that. So whenever you're ready, you can share your screen with your fancy new place, and let's get this rocking and rolling.
All right, man. So we've got our N8N here. So we've got our blank scenario. So we're just going to have this blank scenario right now. What we need to do first is I want to show you how to create a private integration token. So what I'm going to do is go into my Highlevel instance, which this is going to drop me directly into a sub account. So you do need to be in a sub account in order to create a private integration token. And where we're going to go is in settings right down here in the bottom left. So we're going to click settings. And then we're going to scroll down to private integrations, which is in the bottom left corner. You may have to scroll a little bit. I've got a big ass monitor, so I'm able to see pretty much all of the settings, but you may have to scroll a little bit on smaller laptops. So I'm
Mario, any way you can just enhance it a little bit and make it a little bit bigger?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there we go, buddy. Oh, that's cool. And also, the screen on the left is a little crunched. We can't see the left-hand side screens a little bit.
Which left-hand side screens?
The menu item, we can't see the menu It's kind of scrunched in a little bit.
Oh, hold on a second. Let me. Oh, that's so weird.
Yeah, a little
That would
technical
be.
difficulties, folks, but we just want to make sure you guys can see everything.
Yeah, that would be an issue with Restream, actually.
Uh-oh.
Let me see if I can fix that.
Sorry,
Bear with
guys.
me
One
one
second.
second,
This is
guys.
live show. Always got to be worried. I'll just put Mario's barcode up again. In the meantime, while we're
Nuno,
waiting,
can you see the better? Can you better see the left hand side now?
let's see. Yeah, perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and scroll down to private integrations right here on the left-hand side. So it is not integrations, it is private integrations. So we're going to click private integrations. And what we're going to do is we are going to create a new integration. We're going to give our integration a name. I'm going to call this N8N V2. Just going to move my mic a little bit. There we go. We don't need to give it a description, but you can if you want. You can just describe what you're going to do with it. We're going to hit next. And this is where we select some scopes. So what scopes are the permissions that are granted to this API key. So these permissions, you want to be as specific as possible for what you're going to do. And that's why you can have multiple private integrations tokens. So you don't have to add all of your scopes in one token. So for this one, what we want to do is really we just want to create a contact. So we want view contact, edit contact, and that's all we need. So the next step of what we would do is we would hit create. So if I hit create, that is going to show the API key. So I'm going to stop sharing really quick. I'm going to hit create. I'm going to copy that API key. Now you can only view this API key once. So now I'm going to reshare my screen. You can only view this API key once. So you see here how it's blanked out. You'll never be able to see that API key again. So it's really important that you make sure and save that API key. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into N8N. And for the purposes of this demonstration, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a webhook from one account and create a contact in another account. Now, I know all of you are going to say, "Oh, you can do that, natively on the 497 plan," but not everyone has the 497 plan. And not only that, in some cases, you're creating contacts. But so, for example, this morning I was helping a young lady named Angie, and she needed to create a contact from one high level agency and another high level agency. So that's what this is representing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click webhook, and I'm just going to select post. Post is a type of request. Think of post as being a request that sends something. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my API key in a HTTP request. So I'm going to put in that API key, or actually, Nuno, I wonder if you can use the native high level function in N8N with the original, because technically it's the same structure as the original API key. So we're going to try that.
Yeah, the
We're
only
going
thing
to,
is about that native one is it gets limited on like what you could do with it afterwards.
yeah, absolutely correct. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new token. So we're going to create a new credential, which now it's going to force me into V2. Okay. Um, so I will use an HTTP node instead. So I'm going to delete that node and use an HTTP node. What I'm going to do is select authentication, generic credential type. I'm going to select a bearer auth type or a header auth type. I think header auth type will work a little bit better. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new credential. We're going to call this authorization. Now, this is really important, guys. You're not going to be able to see what I type. Actually, I can show you what I type. So I'm going to type in bearer space. So again, bearer, like bear, er, So bearer space. I'm going to switch it back to where you can't see it, and I'm going to paste that private integrations token, and I'm going to call this Alibot.ai private integration contacts only. And I'm going to save this token. Okay. So I called it Alibot private integration, or you could call it Alibot PIT private integration token. And I labeled it contacts only because this is a contacts only API key. So what I'm going to do now, so I'm going to keep editing this. I'm going to save it, close this. Now I have my credentials in there. Now it's time to go to what's called stoplight. So this is the integrations. This is the integrations API. Nuno, I'm going to drop this in our private chat if you want to paste this into the big chat for everyone to
Absolutely.
look at. So this is called Stoplight. Stoplight has all of the information we need for creating API calls in Highlevel.
Hey, Mario, again,
So
can you make that screen just a little bit bigger?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there we go. Fantastic.
So it has everything we need for creating API keys in Highlevel. So what we're going to do is we're going to select contacts, and I want to either use create contact or upsert contact. So the difference between create contact and upsert contact is that create contact only creates contacts if they don't exist. It will error out if a contact exists already. Upsert contact allows you to actually update or create. That's why it's called upsert. Update or create. So you can update or create contacts. So we're going to upsert that contact. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. So you see it's denoted by the type post. So I'm going to come back to my automation, switch this to a post request, and paste that URL right there. Now, the next thing that I need is I need to look down here and see. So you see this is the structure that we just set up, authorization bearer. So we have our bearer token in there. I'm going to copy this version. So we're going to put this version in the header. So I'm going to put header, version, and it will not work without this version header.
And again, we already added the first part, the bearer token, with the first thing you did, where you went and created the API key, came back in with that private integration. So that first initial bearer part is done. We're now just doing the required other things that we need to send stuff in to wherever we got to do in that request.
Yep. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to go into send body. So we need to send some body content. And we need to look at what information is required in the body. So location ID is required in the body. So what I'm going to do is come back in here and I'm going to put location ID. Now I need to go grab the location ID that I want to create. So I'm going to go into my demo account and grab that location ID. And I'm going to paste that location ID. Now the location ID in the demo account is right up here in the URL bar. It's also inside of business profile. You can see right here, this is the location ID. So we're going to copy that location ID right here. And then we start adding fields. So I'm going to do email, and we would put in some merge values. So now we're ready to start getting merge values. So I'm going to go ahead and save my scenario just in case I accidentally hit refresh. Okay. And what we need to do now is we need to go into the original account, and we need to create a webhook in an automation. So what I'm going to do is I want every new lead to be copied from one account to the other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a workflow, start from scratch. I'm going to call this L02, new lead copy to account. And I'm going to put in demo account right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, on contact created, I'm going to save this trigger. And I also want contact changed, because if a contact changes, I want to update their information in the demo account. So I've got two triggers up here. You don't need two triggers. You can do one trigger. You can do different triggers. You can do it on a tag. You can do a variety of different ways, but somehow you have to enroll that contact in this workflow. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put in a webhook. Now we can use the regular webhook, which is right here. So the regular webhook, and let me just silence my notifications really quick. And I'm going to put in that webhook that I created right here. So I'm going to copy this webhook test. Okay, this webhook test. I'm going to copy that into Olibot. And that's all I need to do. I'm going to name this webhook to N8N. And I'm going to save this action. Okay, I'm going to save this workflow. And now what I want to do is anytime a contact gets changed or created, I want to fire that webhook. But we need to fire that webhook right now. So we're going to test the automation. And to test the automation, we're going to hit listen for test event. We're going to come in here and pick a random contact. So I'm going to select me, and I'm going to hit run test. You'll see now that I have all of this data that came in, right? So I've got an email, I've got some city, state, all sorts of different information. So I'm going to pin this data. Now, this is one thing about N8N that's probably my favorite feature of N8N, and you've heard me talk about this before, is the ability to pin data. So when I pin this data, what this is going to do is mean that I don't have to run the scenario again to fire that web. I don't have to run the scenario again to pull that data from the webhook. The next thing we're going to do is come into the HTTP request. We're going to scroll down and we are going to come find that email address. So I'm going to look for that email address, and all you have to do is be in schema and drag it over into value. And that's going to drag what's called a merge tag. So this is a merge tag. That's going to drag the merge tag into the JSON of the scenario that we're running, the node that we're running in the scenario. So with that, what we're going to do now is we're going to add some more fields. So I want contact name. So I want the full name of the contact. So I'm going to grab the full name. And again, these are all values inside of Stoplight. So you see name, email, we had location ID, we're going to do phone, and we're going to do address. So I'm going to do phone next. I'm going to drag over that phone. We're going to do address next. And you could do this with any number of custom fields. You can do this with a variety of different things. So I'm going to copy full address. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to execute a test step. So this is actually going to create the contact in the system or upsert the contact in the system. So what we're going to do is we're going to execute that test step. No authorization header found for authentication. Why is that? It's a header off. Yeah, Spark Hub blog posters, header off. Why? Okay, we'll switch this to bearer off and try that.
Thank God it's happening to him and not me. Because I wasn't able to figure this thing out live. This drives me bananas.
Sometimes it works with header auth. Sometimes it works with bearer auth. It really just depends.
Hmm. And I
So
think
now
that's
I'm
a
going to
challenge a lot of
refresh
people were
page.
having. They couldn't get the one of them to work, and they didn't know that there was another option.
Yeah, so you have to try either header auth or bearer auth. So now I'm going to try bearer auth and execute a test step. Token does not have access to this location. That would be because I used the wrong token. So we're going to go back into workflows, demo account, go into settings. We're going to go into private integrations, create a new integration, N8N v2, do our scopes. And then stop sharing, create, copy that token, reshare my screen. Oop. Reshare my screen, come in here. We're going to edit this token. I just need to paste that correct token in there. I'm going to rename this GHL Pit Demo Account Contacts Only. We're going to save this. No thanks. Close this. Execute test step. Request is invalid, could not be processed by the service. The property address should not exist. Unprocessable entity. So let's look at this in Stoplight. It's address 1, not
Can you share
address.
your
So
screen? I don't know if you know. Oh, hold on. We
I am
weren't
sharing my
sharing
screen.
it. Hold on. Hold on. Yeah. There we go.
So it says this could not be processed by the service. It's because I forgot the 1 on address. When we run this, now we get back that it was created. So in demo account, this was created. So we're good to go. So now if I
So
webhook,
can I ask you a question about that? So the reason, again, just to be clear, the reason why that didn't personally work was because it was missing the required fields. And how do we know which fields are required for this in order to
uh,
process?
the the only field that's required is location ID and email
Mm-hmm.
or phone. I had
Mm-hmm.
a one. I didn't have a 1 on the address, so I just had to put a 1 on the address, and it worked.
And why did you have to put a one on the address?
Because in Stoplight, it specifies that you need address 1
Ah, so
right
there
here, and
has
I
to be a little reading of the actual API information that's pushing over, right? Like I don't think
right,
anybody would have known that address would be address one, other than reading the
right.
API documentation for this thing.
Yeah, so you do have to read the API documentation pretty extensively. On the right-hand side over here is a sample request. This shows you what your sample request should look like. And this is what the response example should look like. bear in mind, these are not always correct on the right hand side. So just keep that in mind. Take it with a grain of salt. Highlevel's working on fixing it because Rupert and I have been complaining about it extensively, but these are not always correct. So bear in mind the center portion, this is always correct. So you want that center portion to say exactly what you want, and you'll see a little required tag next to the information that's required. Now, in this case, I know personally that either phone or email is required because you have to have an identifying field in order to post that contact into the system. So what we've done here is we've mapped our fields, we've gotten everything all set up, and we are now able to create contacts. So when I test that scenario, it's posting that contact in there. Now, let's say that I wanted to fire an outbound webhook from N8N into Highlevel. Well, that's not really necessary, Nuno, because you can do everything via the API, right?
Yeah, we can, but like, let's think of a scenario, right? Let's just make believe I have like a one-off situation. I created this great NAN presentation, and now I want to send, I want to put like the contact that I grabbed in here from something I did in here into Highlevel, or vice versa. I just put somebody through a scenario in Highlevel, like a workflow, and at the end of the workflow, I want to put them through another major automation inside of NAN. How do I connect the webhook coming from Highlevel to NAN, and then how do I connect the webhook? Like, I'm done here, and now I want to push information back. How do I push information back into NAN just using a webhook?
Okay, so what you would do, you just use an HTTP request.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to use an HTTP request. It's not a webhook that you'd click. You'd use an HTTP request. And what you'd do is you'd select post. You'd go into Highlevel. You'd go into your automation. You'd create a new automation, start from scratch. You'd do an inbound webhook trigger. Now, this is a premium action, so this does cost you a penny. So I will say that the easier method is actually to use the native API because you have all of the functions you can do in workflows. For the most part, in the API, you can also add a contact and tag that contact to enter the workflow. So that's the better method than doing a webhook back into Highlevel. But for the purposes of this, what we're going to do is we're going to copy this URL for post get put, and we're going to put it back in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to send a body content. And the body content that we're going to send, I'm just going to send the this custom value. No, I'm going to send email and phone is what I'll send. So I will send email and phone. Where is email and phone? Right there. Email lowercase. I'm going to send email as the type. Now, it doesn't matter what you type in here. This is information. So you can see I'm going to put phone number. And it doesn't matter what you type in here because the other side, we're going to have to map that information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put phone right here. And I'm going to execute a test step. And a test request was received. So I'm going to do fetch sample requests, select this payload. And you can see here is my webhook data. So it fired email and phone number. So I'm going to save this trigger. I'm going to do create contact, add a field. I'm going to do email. I'm going to come in here, inbound webhook trigger, email, add field. I'm going to map it to phone, come in here, inbound webhook trigger, phone, save action. Now, when I fire that scenario, if I publish this scenario and I name this inbound webhook from N8N, create contact. I'm going to save the name of the scenario. Now, if I fire this request, it was sent to, so you see how that changed? Now it's no longer a test request, it's a production request. So that's how you send a webhook into Highlevel from N8N. Again, all we did was create an inbound webhook in Highlevel via trigger. We copied and pasted this. We put that in the URL bar under post method. We added some values into the body, and then we tested that request and we fetched the sample request. So we fetched that sample request and it gave us the email and phone number. Then we saved that trigger and we created a contact in Highlevel.
So now let's just do something else. Make believe, somebody filled out a form and we sent them an email inside a Highlevel, and now all of a sudden we want to create a Google Doc, let's say using AI in NAN. So I now want to send all the information that was in here straight to NAN, but I wanted to start with the webhook. And you know what? Instead of doing this, can we just do a brand new scenario? So then they could see, just like, again, starting over. So then just makes it super easy for people to cut.
Sure.
So literally, I filled out a form and I said I'm interested in the services and yada yada whatever. And in that form, I have my name, my email, and then what I want to do is take that information and literally send a webhook over NAN. And in NAN, basically, it's a service where I'm going to tell you, like, like a story or something. That doesn't matter. Anything that has to do when we automatically can create within AI, and then maybe either set up a Google Doc or something else, and then send it back.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we are going to go into, I'm going to create one called, create a workflow called COA 1 or 2, and that's going to be, I'm going to call this coaching, sign up, create profile.
Or even create Google Drive. They can
Yeah.
even send
So
it.
what we're going to do is we are going to do on form submitted. So I'm actually going to use this scenario in production. So we're going to do on form submitted, coaching, sign up. I'm going to add a filter for my form is sign up for coaching. I'm going to save this trigger. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to webhook into N8N. So I'm going to add a webhook node in Highlevel. I'm going to go into N8N and call this coaching call survey completed, or coaching call sign up. Create Google Drive. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to webhook. So I'm going to change this to a post request. I'm going to copy this test and put this right here and save this action. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back into N8N and hit listen for test event. I'm going to test this workflow. I'm going to find my name again. And I'm going to hit run test. That's going to change the scenario little icon in my bar to a play symbol. And that's going to show all of my data in the system. So now I'm going to pin this data. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to now create a Google Drive. So I'm going to search Drive. And what I want to do is create either a shared drive or create a folder. So I'm going to create a folder and I'm going to select my Google Drive account, which I hate that it shows me everyone's credentials because I don't know whose credentials are what. But I am going to come in here to 1Password and I'm going to go to Google. Give me 1 second, guys. Google auth for N8N. All right, so I'm going to copy this credential. The client ID is not secret. Don't worry. It's not an API key. This API key is what matters, which is why it's hidden. I'm going to hit sign into Google. I'm going to select Alibot. This is going to allow me to do certain things. And then we've connected our account. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to name this Mario at alibot.ai. I'm going to save the name on this one. I'm going to come in here to my folder. I want to create a folder and I want that folder's name to be my full name. And I want in Drive, I'm going to go ahead and create a parent folder. So I'm going to go into my Drive, create a folder, and call this Coaching Clients. So now if I go into Coaching Clients and I come back in here and I search that folder, I have Coaching Clients. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Execute Step. And I'm going to go back into Google Drive. And that folder was created. Now what I need to do is I need to share that folder with a client. So I'm going to call this Google Drive create folder. I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to pin this data. And I'm going to go into Drive. And I'm going to select share folder. I have my credential already selected. I'm going to select the folder I want to share, which I want to share the Mario Aldi's folder. So I'm going to share this folder. Permissions, writer, type, user. Email address is going to be, I'm just going to put in one for just for testing purposes. And I'm going to hit execute step. What that's going to do is that's going to share that folder with me. So if I come in here and I go share, you can see the little share icon popped up. Now it's shared with Mario at hlproTools.com. So what I've done is I've just automated soup to nuts, a client signing up for my coaching program, creating a folder for them to put their documentation in, and then from the folder that they put their documentation in, I shared that folder with them so that they can put their information in the folder. So that's the scenario for webhook. And I need to name this. So I need to name this just because I'm very particular about naming. And there you go.
So Mario, when would we use a private integration? When would we use an inbound and an outbound webhook? And like, what's the difference between all of them?
Yeah, so a private integration allows you, so the previous scenario that we created, which was this one, used a private integration token to post the information into a Highlevel account using the API. So you use a private integration token to post the information into Highlevel. A reason why you wouldn't use a private integration token is perhaps the client doesn't have access to private integrations tokens and only has access to create inbound webhooks.
But and also inbound webhooks are sometimes limited, right? Like you're not going to be able to do certain actions with or grab certain things on that, correct? Because it will be limited.
Um, no, you can do pretty much anything.
It would just be you would have to then go back in. Like once the data comes in on the inbound webhook, you would have to sort it out.
Exactly. And
Got it. Okay.
that's what's kind of a pain in the butt. That's why I prefer using the API method.
Now, I hate to be just because the screens were a little small. Would you mind terribly doing the private integrations a little bit, like one more time? Because again, I want to make it so concrete that people are not going to forget. So just the private integrations. I think the webhooks are pretty clear. We did an inbound, we did an outbound webhook, and at the beginning of the call, we did the private integrations. If we could just do it one more time, because I know there was a little confusion on the bearer. I wanna ensure that people can see it again one more time.
Yeah, so we're just going to go to settings. We're going to come down here to private integrations. We're going to create a new integration, call this N8N v3. We're going to go to next, and we're going to select our scopes. Again, scopes are permissions for that API key. So it's what the API key is going to be doing. You want it to be specific to the actions you're taking. So I'm going to select view and edit contacts, and I'm going to create that private integrations token by hitting create. Now, if I were to hit create, that would actually create the token and show it. So I'm going to stop my share, create that token, copy that token. I'm going to reshare my screen. So I'm going to reshare my screen, and I'm going to go back into N8N, and I'm going to pretend that I need a new credential. So I'm going to select bearer auth or header auth. It changes sometimes. So you need to,
Yeah,
if one,
how do you know which one? Or you just like if one doesn't work, immediately try the other?
if one doesn't work, you just try the other one.
Got it. Okay.
So we're going to select bearer auth. We're going to come in here. We're going to hit create new credential, and we're going to paste that credential right there. We're going to name this GHL demo or GHL Alibot AI create contacts.
Now,
We're gonna
if because we're using the bearer auth, we don't have to write the word bearer. If we're
right,
using the authentication auth, we would have to write bearer and then paste in the token we just made.
right. So in this case, it's just pasting the token in the bearer auth.
Yeah, that's a
So
very, very big distinction for a lot of the newbies. Like that's just it's not going to be common knowledge. So again, if you're using the bearer auth, you're just going to copy and paste the token. If you're using the authentication auth, you're going to write the word bearer, a space, and then copy and paste the token.
yeah, so we've got a bunch of questions in the chat, Nuno.
Yeah, I've been
Uh,
answering them. I don't know if my chat's a little delayed. So I
uh,
think we're good.
Okay, cool. So we did have one that was, hey Nuno, is it possible to automate not just getting one set of info, but an array of records, just like the single one you were working on? Georgetta, can you explain what you mean by an array of records? Like, are you saying you want to send multiple contacts in one webhook? If so, that's not possible. You can workflow only enrolls one contact at a time, but the good news is the scenario is able to run more than once simultaneously. So it's not a big deal if that's the case.
Yeah, good question. And again, for Alvin, again, yeah. So the NAN basic lessons are here. We do have them inside the YouTube channel already. You can go back and go from there. and just kind of watch them and just kind of work your way through them, because we did start with like really beginner automations and kind of working through. Believe it or not, the connection is actually the hardest part for a lot of people, and we covered that in massive details. We're also going to see if we can create an SOP that we can put when we will reformat this video. We'll add all the lessons, and what we'll do is we'll create an SOP out of it so you guys have it. Because again, this was the biggest question we got in a lot of the comments, and a lot of people struggling was, again, just the connection points. But I think we did it again. So just to kind of recap, so everybody has the same thing. When it comes to the HTTP request, right, you're either going to use the bearer or you're going to use the auth. If you use the bearer, you just copy the token that you created on the private integrations inside of your Highlevel account and drop in the token, and that'll work. Or if you have to use the header, then you have to write the word bearer, a space, and then drop the token. And that answers like the private integration piece. The inbound and the inbound, and you also remember that depending on the data that you're passing through, remember some of them require like you to write it exactly the way the API describes. In the case of the address there had address one, which is kind of silly, but it still had it, and that's why the address wasn't writing through. So you do have to kind of go back into the API documentation and take a look at it. The second piece of it is in the inbound and the outbound. You saw how that was processed. When the inbound webhook comes in, there's a way to do it. When the outbound webhook goes out, but either way, you still have to kind of sort the information when it comes in, and that's why the webhook is like, it's better to do the private integration where all that happens in the back end versus you having to do it here. So all that being said, that kind of really does like give everybody what they need, and there'll be a great installment. Now next week there is no Vibe Fridays. I am officially away on vacation. Even though I'm on an island now, I'm going to be away on that island, secluded and not talking to anybody for the next week. So but catch us back next week. We'll both be back and we'll be ready to rock and roll. And so we'll see you guys, everybody, from a week from now. But hopefully this was enjoyable and you guys got to see it all. And again, we'll create an SOP. We'll make sure to put it on the description. Give us like a day or two to do that. I'll have, once we kind of reformat this video and get it live on the channel itself, you guys will be the first guys to get dibs to it. So with that being said, thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one.